All right, so game 3 is here. We're gonna kick things off, and Taco, you just dropped a little bombshell on us, though. If Bolts truly is gonna be taking Scented through their drop, could that be the game-winning strategy for them to get them at least into an endgame conversation? We've seen that endgame by no means is anyone's free reign. It is difficult depending on where things end. Last game was a mountain zone. Anything can happen. However, a little more favor. It is going to lend ourselves to an interesting story, but first, this drop right here, the battle continues this time. Mixin and Blaha a little bit more standoffish as they have the center, not the high ground.
But Mixin and Blaha back to tried and true. Last lobby, we saw them take Quanti and Yapko by surprise when they chose to contest here with Research Rock, and now Quanti, after having been brought incredibly low, it's still gonna be Blaha applying some pressure, but does Blaha know that Yapko just kind of crouch walking around, trying to see if he can reposition? He might have an excellent flank opportunity here onto Blaha or Mixin. You can hear those feet stomping around above him on the ceiling, but it is all about patience here for Yapko. Doesn't want to reveal his position just yet. He is looking for the prime opportunity to take out either Mixin or Blaha, whoever happens to come through this doorway first.
Trying to just reveal himself as Blaha jumps down and start farming some mats there. So for sure, he's opened himself up to some line of fire, but nothing happening just yet. I almost wish Yapko would have picked up that hand cannon. He probably would have had the opportunity there, but it is what it is as things start to slow down. Here's a place that isn't settling at all. Grim Gates, Batman Booga, first off, walked his way through Okus, and then an even exchange here on what was left of Convict and Duo, and there you have it. We're gonna call it vacant gates at this point. There isn't a team left.
That is a crazy closure to Grim Gate in lobby number 3, though, MDF. The fact that literally nobody prospered from that triple contest taking place, but hey, sometimes that's just the way the cookie crumbles, and those are the risks that are going to be involved. Rigby and Mordecai, if they don't win this exchange, they might find themselves getting fired from lobby number 3, but Cam and Aminish just trying to see if they can get away. No, Rigby, Mordecai, they want to give chase, but their crash pad gets shot out before given the opportunity. Nitro Splash gonna come out instead because Rigby, he's got to get off this roof. He needs to close the distance. He only has an SMG to work with. He's got to get close range with it, but it's just not going to be the case. They're going to actually be forced to let this one go. They just don't have the loadout that they need to give pursuit here onto a Minished and Cam. And the Grand Glacier now proving to be a little bit more difficult to conquer.
Take a look at this replay right here from Baka and Pars. How it all unfolded. This is how Okus was taken down, and like we said, shortly after that, Bucky as well. So this is just, you know, action lending its way out of the Grim Gate, spilling into the fields. Baka and Pars, 2 eliminations now because of that quick finish. Still holding on to their Grim Gate dashes as well, so they'll be able to take those into their early game here shortly.
Noticing some things there for Pars and Baka at the ship station. But most importantly of all, they just have so many forms of mobility surrounding them. 2 flaming boost tubes, a launch pad off on the dock, and then also the possibility of either the weapons bunker, a couple of forecast towers that they could potentially look to circle around towards. The world's seemingly their oyster for the time being, as Baka and Pars, they might go hunting for some buried treasure a little bit later on. See if they can get some better shield potion options. Kanata and Cooper all the while just holding it down outside of the Nitrodrome, waiting to get their surge base online before they actually opt to start trying to look for those tag exchanges. They know that those slurp cacti are going to be the ultimate beneficial factor there when they're looking for that tag damage.
What's happening here? Little rat play from Noisy. He's just sneaking his way around, trying to work his way towards the reboot van. Reciprocal and G-Monster want nothing of it. They'll likely be sitting on the card here of Noisy's duo mate here at the Rebel Roost, and Shirley is where they got the pickup, so they're gonna go ahead and play the lowest of low tactics, and that's just sit on the card for as long as possible. Noisy probably has to figure out that this is not gonna be worth his time and effort anymore, and likely play this game on by himself if he wants to have anything good come of it.
The craziest part, though, is that this might not even be worthwhile for Reciprocal or G-Money either, MDF, because if they can't get this elimination quick enough, if Noisy actually decides to sit and wait it out, but gotta maybe take that back. Seems as though Noisy, no sound being made. It's giving him a little bit of confidence here to try and press towards his teammates' reboot card, but now Reciprocal, G-Money, they're gonna pop out of the woodwork. And just like that, Noisy trying to do what he can to bail out of this situation, but this is the moment that Reciprocal and G-Money waited so patiently for. They don't want to let it slip away. They know just how necessary this surge damage is going to be for their late game strategy if they can make it there. Definitely had some struggles in the mid game because of how far they've had to rotate in general. The first two lobbies today, and Reciprocal eats a big tag in the process, but will find that elimination onto Noisy. So a slight profit currently for G-Money and Noisy, and now it's all about working their way down from Rebel's Roost and joining the rest of the teams in zone.
Yeah, I think it's really about the point gain at this point, because you gotta be at least in a top 25 if you're not in a winning position at some point or another before the tournament concludes. And with game 3, your chances to do so are starting to run thin. Mason and Walker is very much in that same conversation as they're going against Curly and Raze, who hasn't earned a dime this game either. This is outside the shipwreck. A lot of teams actually engaging in their own fights nearby, so everyone very much focused on their own efforts here. Cactus under control by Curly and Raze, which tells us time is on the side for the team who's in control here. And, you know, all in all, even if this doesn't end up, you know, finishing in some points, I mean, what we are watching is a lot of surge being generated, right? If you can get trades and still bounce back comfortably, that's what's at hand. But Walkers and Mason actually need this elimination, though. I'm going to back off of that statement because they don't have extra heals to work with. They've lost control of the Cactus at this point, so we need to see them press in like yesterday. There we go. Mason jumps in, makes the edit, finds a huge tag onto Curly, and they can't allow them to recuperate at this point.
You can see Walkers wants it. He's trying to press forward, but doesn't want to be overly ambitious about it either. He knows that Slurp Cactus is currently under Raze and Curly's control. He also spots out Raze, trying to apply some pressure from overhead. So Walker is going to be forced to reassess the situation here. Decide, do I allow Curly to just depend on that Slurp Cactus healing up his white health there, along with the shields eventually, but Raze one more time doing exactly what he needs to try and cover his duo, but no, maybe a split too far. Raze catches wind of Walkers and Mason trying to double charge in front of Curly's wall there, and it will buy the duo a little bit of time. Yeah, they really wanted to just forcibly take that position. Still a slight health advantage, at least as far as Mason is concerned. Looking for another shot onto Curly, won't be able to connect. This left side peek is definitely difficult to go for, but finally, Mason and Walkers, just when you think it's gonna turn in their favor, Mason caught off guard from above, but it's an even exchange. Raze goes down in the process. Now it's all up to Curly versus Walkers. The 1v1 could ultimately determine which team is actually gonna be able to walk away from this one. For better or worse here, and Curly, no control of the Slurp Cactus. And seemingly his last shield potion to work with as well.
Walker's pushing forwards now as well, trying to get inside. Remember, he still has that Grimgate dash. Anything can happen here, but Curly gets the first tag now, and it is just even on both sides, but Walker's with the bigger tag there, seals the deal. But remember, he did lose Mason. The zone has moved on, and sure, he can pick up everything that was earned here, but there's no extra heals. There's nothing to walk away with other than his wounds here, and he will have to play for the pickup somewhere close by. Either way, we'll find out if it was worth it. That's a lot of damage to take here this late into the early game as we're starting to approach the middle of the timeline here. But Peterbot and Pollo coming out from their upgrades here and now, surrounded by a number of different duos.
Yeah, but one thing I can't help but keep in mind there is that, sure, walkers can probably tank a little bit more storm damage because of that Surf Cactus nearby. Granted, you'll have to get back to that narrative in a moment because Victor and Paper currently in a fight for their lives up against Blaha and Mixon. Pretty massive box fight taking place too. Wouldn't be surprised if this happened to draw some third-party attention in the process, so Victor's got to be careful. Got to make sure that he's maintaining that spatial awareness of who might be approaching from behind because Lawrence, Ozone, they are steadily closing the gap. Paper and Victor are relatively split as well. They're trying to get separate side angles from above onto Mixon and Blaha, but it could end up working against them. But fortunately, Victor seems to have spotted out Lawrence and Ozone rotating from just a little bit into his blind side. But now, Victor, Paper, they've got to make the choice. Ultimately, is this really the fight that we want to keep trying to pursue, especially when we know that a third-party team is bearing down on us?
Yeah, I'm not too sure Victor actually knows if Lawrence is there or not. Like, he's looking back, but he didn't throw walls down, so I'm a bit confused. But Lawrence and company seems to feel like they were on edge because Victor was peeking that way, and they actually move out first. So I'm a little bummed we don't get to see the conclusion of Victor and Paper versus Blah and Mixon, because Victor and Paper, although they've been very successful, we haven't actually seen them fight such a strong duo this early in the game. They've taken on some more, you know, not so familiar names, if you will. But either way, this is why they keep making their strides towards the final stages. They play smart, they take the battles they know that they can win and move on otherwise.
But what this really all comes back to is the fact that these teams, they're willing to spend a little bit more time in the storm. They're getting some damage off in the process as well. And you think, wow, 1-2 eliminations, you would expect it to be in their favor. But because of these south bowling zones, again, MDF, keep in mind, early on, lobby number one, kind of just highlighting the fact with the help of Prodigy Analytics that we are seeing a lot higher numbers as far as what the storm surge damage thresholds are needing for zone 7, 8, 9, and 10 specifically. And we've even seen the two highest storm surge damage thresholds of the season so far in those specific zones take place. So when you think about the teams like walkers that are kind of just left in those solo situations, if you don't have a ton, even if you feel like you have a ton of storm surge damage built up, you probably still won't have enough to actually maintain through that mid to late game. The only team that's really been consistently pulling this one off, I think, would be Peterbot and Pollo.
Take a look at this. Peterbot and Pollo actually caught wind of Clix moving up to the Rift Island, maybe by himself. But Vino surely has to be given the call out as he has the side angle here that there's a team underneath. And Clix is eyeing up the launch pad here, trying to keep control of it, and he doesn't feel safe. Neither does Vino with the situation at hand, and off they go to meet with one another here. Up Peterbot and Pollo go to the high ground, and that's how quickly you can get sent right back to the lobby if you let your guard down. Look at how fast Clix is with the reaction there. He's 65 body tag. Exactly what he's looking for. This is perfect for them to get into this exchange here if they need these tags. And there just isn't anyone in sight. It's almost as if we're watching a zone war, just a standoff between the two.
Clix says, oh wow. Dude,
I was like pre-calling that one because I've seen the clips. Peterbot can just handle this spray so well.
That is nasty work by Peterbot, and I was just about to compliment Clix because he's really had a glow up as well as far as his Hunter's DMR game is concerned. I think when we first saw, BloodX kind of harping on Clix needing to get a little bit more of accuracy access when utilizing that weapon for surge strategies, and the position that Clix has been in time and time again today. I think it has just been a relatively unlucky sequence of events for the first two lobbies as far as Clix and Veno are concerned, because you do have to keep in mind, throughout the duration of this season, they have actually been one of the teams that have looked to not only take over, but kind of hold high ground the longest. So the fact that we haven't really seen them be able to establish that control here today, I think, again, it just all kind of funnels back to the circumstance that they've had to deal with in their early and mid-game sequences. In lobby number 1, we saw Clix and Veno kind of exchanging solo circumstances. Lobby number 2, they were trying to make a play, I think, from secondary height, but then just get bamboozled in the secondary height mid layer by Rapid, who was operating as like a stealth solo. So it almost feels like a matter of time before they actually find the prime opportunity to strike here today. And I think a lot of the public perception surrounding them has been that they have definitely been surfacing as a really strong duo that if they just find that stride, that momentum will take them all the way.
Just as a reminder right now, what we're looking out for is the Victory Royale. The win will send you to the grand finals. It'll skip you past the Saturday and Sunday of games that we have coming up this weekend, and it'll send you straight to the finals stage. However, if you fall short of that, top 25 is that next cutoff. So yes, it is very important that you remain consistent throughout what's left of these couple of rounds. Otherwise, you will not see uppers bracket number 2, and you'll get sent down to the lower bracket. So there is very much a lot on the line here, and that's why when you start looking at the updates, you start looking at the standings, any of those teams that won, they're no longer in the lobby. That's why we have 48 teams playing right now. So for Yamzo and Tayson, they're fighting for just that here. King Cirque's going to be one of the ones to fall here. They're still 50 below, though. Great tag from Yamzo there to follow up, but you can see the Surge is very much active on this duo here. They're sitting on a plethora of heals now from the eliminations, but when the Surge is active, man, it claims damage, and it claims it so fast. Really don't have time to sit around.
Look at his ammo.
When the Surge and the Storm is working together, and yeah, you're right. The ammo is low now, too.
This is just chalked right now for Yamzo and Tayson. They do have some heals to try and work with, but they are just barely above that damage threshold now, sitting at 33. And they've got quite a ways to go with a decent amount of traffic surrounding them. And Yamzo, more than ever, I mean, he's only got 6 shots to operate with here, MDF. And granted, if you expect accuracy from anyone, I think Yamzo is a fair target to call out. So unfortunate with the crash pad there, but that's gonna be the final one now from Yamzo as he continues to try and push forward. These two are definitely some high caliber players, but at the same time, even the best would really struggle from their current position. If they can turn this one around, though, MDF, that has got to be a massive confidence boost for the remainder of this lobby.
Yeah, I think they're good now. I think they have their self, you know, very much situated. If they just can survive the incoming shots, I do think they at least have some footing here. There's a lot of teams nearby them, so opportunity should, you know, reveal itself here shortly. Muzz and Epic Will's one of the duos up above, but look at all this metal here. This is a sign that teams are trying to base down, but they don't want to let that happen. Yamzo goes into the box, but it seems like Tayson was ready, and so was Freeze there too, so both sides are exchanging. But in the end, the damage was done, and it does look like Tayson at least comes out on the top, but not before Yamzo was fully finished there. And look, they got the damage, he's got the extra heals. This is going to come down to Tayson just playing a miraculous game now at this point, which he's very much capable of. This is someone who has won solo titles as an individual. He is arguably, you know, amongst the greats of the great, especially on the European region, absolutely on the global stage. So we have a true chance here. It was, I would say that was a worth it push.
For sure. This is definitely looking a lot more like a salvageable situation than what they were just in, especially when you consider that they had every single factor working against them prior to that refresh. Tayson, though, understanding the fact that he's not going to be able to lead the charge as far as trying to look to control the front side of zone. He's probably going to be looking to operate a little bit more from that backside of zone position. And you don't necessarily want to be the last one to go for your rotate because you don't want to get picked off by some of those teams that are going to try and situate themselves in those mid-ground tiers. But still, as you already called out, at least a situation for Tayson to definitely clutch up some nice placements, put himself in Yamzo in a solid spot to try and maintain that top end of the leaderboard position so they can ensure that they're still in upper bracket for day 2, if anything.
Take a look at this. Mixon and Baja switching up the angles here as they come across some builds, reutilizing the crash pad that was placed below them, and all these little things start to add up to allow this team to make their way into the zone. Into the box they go, though. They recognize there's some weak wood here. We have a chance to do something big, but Blaha unfortunately wasn't at the hip of Mixon, and they lose an opportunity now, and that might just be the downfall of this duo. Surely mistakes were made because they weren't together there. Shadow and Virgo are going to be the ones that come out with the advantageous position now. They pick up what's left of the team. I mean, they didn't deliver much, but it's still better than what they had before. And even with that refresh, Shadow and Virgo are very much in a scrappy situation here, as is the team that's pushing into them. So they're gone. Perfect time to hit the rotate there with the flaming hoop into the storm. Shadow goes all the way around. I wonder if Virgo can even keep up with this move right here. He is. That was impressive.
That's a nice wraparound tactic, and they're also in a much less congested section of the zone, but they know they're definitely going to have to keep things moving as everything starts to draw ever closer here at Pleasant Piazza. Mira and Pink have staked out a decent amount of spacing for themselves. Some good builds, kind of taking note of the high ground. Looks like they want to see if they can maybe take over the high ground, but crash pad right past it, onto the other side of this hill here. We'll be able to identify some isolated spacing, and Tayson from out of nowhere punishing Ackerman, turning his back, but the favor is returned. Tayson will eventually find himself getting eliminated in the process. Still a solid run, though, considering where we saw Tayson and Yam just start this one off.
Yeah, tough spot to be in. You make one of those edits, you can't grab the wall, but let's jump in with Peterbot and Boyo, who find Epic Whale, putting Muzz in a bad situation here. He throws his teammate back, but now Peterbot and Boyo are putting all of their effort and focus on into him. They're looking to see if they can actually get their secured elimination. They do get it, but through the hands of another duo, so that's going to tell them everything they need to know about Muzz exiting on stage left there. The wide shot reveals that the only team up top is Noxy and Crispy right now, but someone sneaks from behind them. Yeah, this is some weird terrain right now. So Boog and Aviv actually give up the high ground completely to make their first rotate. Shadow and Virgo from the outskirts position find themselves on top, but they don't have a lot of mats. This is really not something they can afford to do right now. They will have to fight a team here.
Like that from Shadow, though. Spots out crash pad, gonna opt to just recycle it from team beforehand, but ultimately ends up being his demise. Ran right into the hands of Peterbot and Pollo, tarping things through on the low ground. And this is an aggressive build out as well from Peterbot. He's got that mythic hand cannon, the gatekeeper shotgun. He is all about trying to apply some pressure from the low ground for the time being. And Peterbot and Pollo, they've actually got a lot of control here in the low ground. They're actually going to cut off Lawrence and Ozone from trying to make that rotate out of the backside.
I do find it interesting. There's really not many teams down in that ultimate low ground, as Peterbot and Pollo just cleaning up house there. On the high ground, the very same can be said. It seems like all the action right now is in this middle pack right here. A very, very congested mid-ground layer happening right now. Vino and Click slowly inching their way on up, trying to see what they can find. But it's up and over a little lip and a mountain there, and they get themselves off the low ground now and back into a secondary elevated position. They look up, they see there's a single tarp up top. There's an opportunity here. Vino, no stranger to start focusing into the high ground. We're wondering, could the opportunity present themselves to go for it? It seems like now things are starting to finally connect, but first, you gotta fight your way through. Rigby's gonna be the first to fall here. They get the mats too, but another duo nearby.
Oh, just barely takes that final tick from the storm, and now Clicks. He was trying to make a play through that mid-ground layer, but it's gonna get cut off. So unfortunate that Veno just took that big shot from Rigby, despite getting the elimination. And now Peterbot Pollo, one more time, trying to see if they can replicate some high ground success here. Ritual gonna be one of the first to fall to them. 8 eliminations in total already here for Peterbot and Pollo. And Peterbot just tarping so aggressively through the front side of this zone. Rise now sitting at the top though. Cam and Aminis trying to see if they can make quick work of him, but this could pose to be very problematic here. Ajerrs with that split position actually gonna help Rise in terms of being able to establish their turf on the high.
We're really seeing the early implications of the crash pads being in play, why teams aren't really going for high ground early, because all of a sudden you can be contested for that position. So Peterbot and Pollo playing for the low ground, trying to opt to do things a little bit differently, has really played into their favor. You can see the results of the eliminations are there to show for it as well, as they are the kings of the crypts right now. Pressure coming in from up above, team down low. Peterbot eliminates the threat. That was Bacon's here in the low ground position, and now it's all focused up above here. The medallions swap out to try to get their regens going here. And I think Ajerrs and Rise made a mistake. They've given them a little too much time to gather themselves, to reload their weapons, and put up a fight here. So this is going to be all or nothing here coming shortly.
Ajerrs and Rise both gonna drop at the same time. They're trying to see if they can cause a little bit of chaos here towards the low, but Ajerrs will successfully hold tight. And Rise, he was able to play that distraction factor just long enough. An excellent final showdown though between these two powerhouse duos, and sure enough, it's crazy to think that Rise and Ajerrs were still able to turn that one into their favor, because for a moment there, MDF, you're right, they did take a quick pause that almost netted a success there for Peterbot and Pollo.
Luckily, Ajerrs and Rise did enough to get it done. It wasn't pretty, it was a little scrappy, but they got the job done in their taco. And just like that, Ajerrs and Rise are sending themselves straight to the grand finals. I mean, I liked what they managed to complete.
Yeah, I definitely can't ever feel bad about that one. Doesn't matter how it's done, doesn't need to be pretty. At the end of the day, MDF, a ticket into grand finals is a ticket into the grand finals. So congratulations to Rise and Ajerrs for pulling off with that one. And we'll see what happens in lobby number 4 as we come back from this quick break.